originally thought that this was probably, I didn't think of it as a mission trip, that it was more of a recitation, a choral recitation. But as it progressed, I thought that, well, maybe it is really a mission. Maybe if these folks see what this group of Americans is really like, then they'll have a better opinion of the United States. And I think that's the way it went. I saw faces change and spirits lighten up as we watched the congregations that the choir sang in front of. So I think it was a very worthwhile trip, and probably was a mission trip.
Well, I guess what prompted me to go on this mission trip was my love for the German culture, and my family ancestors are from Germany, and I just wanted to kind of get back to the roots of my family, and I just enjoy the culture a lot, and to spread the joy of music in basically where Western music was, almost invented. It was just a great thrill.
I think why I went was because I think of the choir as a tapestry, and each of us is a little thread, and I knew we needed a lot of threads to make this a tapestry that Billy would be pleased with and that the public would like to hear.
Fellowship. I think it was one of the strongest team-building exercises that we could ever have done. Because we went through sleeplessness, long lines, sore feet, headaches, other aches, lots of pains, but in the end I think it was something that we'll all always remember as being a good team-building activity.
What prompted us to go on the trip, and we're not choir members, so it probably wasn't because we wanted to sing on the trip, but Tom suggested that we go, and of course we love Billy, so when he says go, I am always ready. And we did talk about some of the things that we felt like you're close to church members because you see them in church, you see them in choir, but when you actually live and eat breakfast and go to bed and say goodnight to people, you really get to know them like they're your family. So we really felt it was a strengthening of our church family through this trip.
Was there any time in the trip that you sort of sensed God's presence in a real way, significantly?
Well, absolutely. And when we visited Buchenwald, it was a miserably rainy day. The morning leading up to our visit, and in fact, we weren't sure we'd be able to visit the camp. And but our buses pulled up, and in fact, normally it was on a Monday, and the camp is normally closed. But they opened up for us, special tour, access to the entire camp. And as we got off the buses, the kind of clouds opened up, and we had a good hour or two of clear, beautiful weather. And I know that was to facilitate our trip, to really see what was there.
And I think when I was at Buchenwald, that it made me realize then more than ever before that we are one humanity. And although we read of it in history books, we think about it independently, to actually be there and know that the possibility of an ancestor may well have been in that camp, to me was the most moving experience of the whole trip.
And of course, visiting the concentration camp was, I think, probably the most moving place of all, because it was such a beautiful area, and to think that men could do such evil things to one another in such a beautiful area, or at all, was just a shock.
Did you, after we visited the concentration camp, did your day, as we went to that worship service together, how did that affect you after being at Buchenwald?
That was special. The people themselves were so friendly to us. They fed us a picnic in the rain, and they were very, very kind to us. The setting was extremely moving. The atmosphere of the church with the representation of the wires was very moving. And then when we all had the time of passing the peace and embracing each other, I thought that was very moving.
One of the things that stands out most for me was the day that we visited Buchenwald. All around me were the evidences of man's horrible behaviors and the cruelty that he put upon other people. And it counterpointed with this fabulous natural beauty all around us. And it kept pulling inside my spirit. I couldn't deal with it. And then that night, we went to this precious church where the pastor didn't even speak English. We walk in and he trots out to greet us with the joy of the Lord all over his face and his little hat held in his hands. And inside then we listened to him share his testimony of how he had come to Christ. And I think what just touched my heart so was after he had shared how he had come to know the Lord, I got to ask him what had happened as his family responded to his choice. And he gave the saddest smile and said, "Let's just say I've left the nest." And I was so touched that the joy of the Lord was all over this man, and yet he had paid such a cost.
I think the thing that actually left the biggest impression on me, and it took me a while to even recover from it, was something that was very tragic, to visit Buchenwald concentration camp. Actually being there, I've seen much about it on television, read much about it, but to actually be there left a very deep impression and from the bottom of my soul. I mean, it just was such heartbreak to imagine what went on there and just the kind of cruelty that went on there. And but I did have such a wonderful feeling that I got to play this wonderful Jewish piece called Kol Nidre on the cello as my own prayer for all of these people who had been murdered at Buchenwald.
Living the faith here was hard. It is that faith that is to me the strength of this place. It is believing in God in the face of unspeakable human cruelty and injustice. It is believing in unanswered prayers. It is getting up and going on every day in conditions that rival those of Job. And upon liberation, it is immediately worshiping God for his faithfulness in time of sorrow. As Henry Alford said in his famous hymnal lyrics he wrote in 1844, "We walk by faith and not by sight. No gracious words we hear of him who spoke as none e'er spoke, but we believe him here. We may not touch his hands inside, nor follow where he trod, yet in his promise we rejoice and cry, my Lord and God." Help then, O Lord, our unbelief, and may our faith abound to call on you when you are near, and seek where you are found. What have we to learn here? Faith.
I was most moved by being able to sing with an organ that Bach had an association with.
And the best thing about the trip was the music. And the impact they had was how Billy can put together a bunch of us. There are many wonderful singers in our choir, and there are many people like myself that need good directorship, and we certainly had that, and I think it all came together on this trip. It's just such a fantastic experience to be in these churches, these old churches, and just to be part of the sound that was going out and to see the people around us. And I remember the cathedral in Passau, how they claimed it's one of, if not the largest organ in the world that they have there, and we were fortunate to be in the church when they started to play, and I've never felt that in my life. It's just like you couldn't move, or I couldn't move. I'm just completely, like every pore of my body absorbed the music. And I looked at those around Billy. You had tears streaming down your eyes, just standing there listening to the sound. And I'll never forget that.
Hearing the organ at Passau was just amazing. It's the largest organ in the world. It's 17,000 pipes, and that was just a special thrill to hear that.
The part of the trip that impacted me the most was probably being at the end of the worship service in Passau, an absolutely beautiful church dedicated to God's glory, and an absolutely fantastic organ. We heard communion music at the end of the service, and then a postlude. And the postlude was just out of this world, and I thought, here we are in this wonderful, wonderful facility, hearing this wonderful organ, and it moved me to tears, as it is right now. And then we got to go upstairs and see the console and meet this organist who was probably 22 years old and had improvised the last piece from 2 lines from an old hymnal. And so it was just a glorious experience being in that facility at the end of that church service and hearing the music being played to the glory of God.
The biggest day for me, and I had really looked forward to this day, was seeing the Wartburg Castle, where Martin Luther translated the New Testament from Greek to German. And many people don't realize this was a milestone not only for religion but also for the language, because this is the first time German was written. And most families acquired a Bible, and this is how German was standardized, and it led to the reunification of all the tribes into the country that became Germany in 1871.
I think it was incredible to be able to follow in the footsteps of giants like Bach and Mozart and Luther, and actually see the places where they did all their great things that improved the world, all 3 of those giants. And to play their music and to sing their music was such a gift, and that we could go over there and do it for the people who it was part of their heritage, this music, and do it so well. I was so proud that we did this. And I think it was something that was great for diplomacy, for our country, for people to see us doing these wonderful performances and hearing this wonderful music that we were producing. And all of that was just such an incredible experience that I can't even describe it.
So I would like to say something I feel quite strongly. Some of you know that I worked professionally before I got involved in this business in the field of international relations. And I know how difficult it is for all the world to live in harmony together. And I know that people get ideas about other countries. There are different lenses which all too often are distorting lenses. It's a lens of politics, it's a lens of war, it's a lens of conflict, but it's always from an official point of view, it's always from the political point of view, and all too often it misses the people. However much you may have enjoyed singing, and that to you I would like to think has been one of the positive aspects of this tour, to me there's something much more important than the fact that you're a damn good choir. More important than that is the fact that the people who have heard you sing have a very much more positive view of your country than they might have heard before. Because in the end, the image that comes across from such a fine-looking crowd of people, because you also look damn good. when disguised in your tuxedos and such a fine-looking crowd of people making such beautiful music, there is no better way of spreading a positive message of your country. And to me, that is important, because we're living in an ever smaller planet in a sense, and the more people have positive images of those with whom we share the planet, the better it is, and you have made a very positive contribution to that process. It's been a pleasure to be part of it. Thank you.
What about the singing?
The singing, wonderful experience for those of us who are not used to singing. It was new for me and has been a wonderful experience, And I think the German people certainly were receptive to everything we offered.
It was a fantastic trip, and the fact that our church choir was performing made it that much better. And I do remember the different stops, and the third stop stands out most vividly because I was in a position to look at people's faces when the choir was singing and performing. And I mean, it was just a heartwarming experience just to watch their expression listening to our choir.
And I did not expect the marvelous feeling that just transported you when we sang in all these venues, and just the beauty of it, the sound just, well, even now as we're listening to it, doesn't it just transport you to another place?
Was there any place where you felt God's presence more profoundly than any other time?
Probably in Bad Ischl, because, just singing up there and the spirituality of it, I was in a great place at that particular time.
I agree that the church was beautiful. The people that were watching us sing, their reactions to us sing, really made us feel like we were serving God.
And when they talked to us on the way out and said, they were crying, and the reactions from them was probably also a very wonderful experience. Now let me touch them in that particular way.
It was a little